Dog Training Online Training Podcast. Today's topic, safe greetings between dogs. Hi everybody, once again, this is Connor. Today, Margaret and Damian will be finishing up our series on dog greetings by talking about safe greetings between dogs. They will give you simple tips on what to look for when letting your dog greet another dog, as well as helpful commands like go visit and switch that you can use to make dog-to-dog greetings safe and fun for everyone.
Welcome to Creative Dog Training. Damian and I are here today to conclude our 3-part series about making greetings safe. In the first section, we covered how you can safely greet a dog. In section 2, we gave advice on teaching your dog to greet people pleasantly. In this section, we share our thoughts on making dog-to-dog greetings pleasant and safe. If you haven't listened to the first 2 sections, you might want to before continuing here.
It's amazing how we keep coming up with these podcasts that could fill up a book or two, but we keep making them small enough to fit them on here. Go ahead and tell us what our steps are for our 3rd part today.
We have 6 steps today. First step, socialize your dog. Second, teach your dog to walk beside you on a loose leash. Third, teach the command switch. 4th, teach settle down. 5th, teach go visit. And 6th, respect the dog's choices.
You know, this basically sounds like we're just using our obedience skills. You know, you can learn all of these skills we're talking about in our online Basic Respect 101 class at creativedogtraining.com.
You know, the purpose of training is to use training in real life. And we have 6 caveats today. The first is consult us or a qualified trainer in your area for antisocial behavior. The second, know what dominance looks like. Third, know your stress signs. 4th, watch for signs of the freeze. 5, sniffing is part of it. And 6, use caution with big dog, small dog interactions.
Now, for that first caveat is to make sure that you consult us on the website or a qualified trainer in your area for those antisocial behaviors. Remember, safety is our number 1 priority, and since we're not observing you and your dog, you need to make sure that you pay extra close attention.
You know, taking a walk, going to dog parks, dog events, and even pet stores should be avoided with antisocial dogs until you obtain some in-person advice.
Alright, and right there is step 1, socialize that dog. Make sure that your dog gets lots of places to go with you. Make sure that you arrange regular play dates and good visits to a doggy daycare center. And then make sure also, before you choose that daycare center, you check out our podcast on how to get a good one. And remember that your dog's playing with pack members, you know, that those other dogs in your home, that's not socialization. Packs are usually very exclusive on just them and not letting other dogs in. And just remember too that relaxed, exercised, and socialized dogs welcome a chance to make new friends.
All right, step 2 is to teach your dog to walk beside you on a loose leash. Tight leashes increase excitement and frustration for both you and your dog. Allowing your dog to walk in front of you puts you in the following position. You won't be able to control greetings if your dog is 10 feet out in front of you pulling.
Now, what happens when you see that dog approach is that you tend to pull back on that leash. And when you pull up on that leash, it causes your dog's front end to come up, and that dog that's coming towards you, that can be read as a challenge.
You know, your dog also thinks that something is wrong with the approaching dog because you reacted by tightening the leash and making him come close to you. Just avoid the whole issue by walking your dog beside you on a loose leash. Now, it's important to understand that if your dog becomes excited and that leash tightens and you can't do anything about it, you're better off to turn around and walk away rather than continuing to approach the dog that's coming toward you. Because dogs on a tight leash that are already excited, it's just not a good greeting situation.
Alright, now this is a good place for our second caveat, which is know the signs of dominance. Now, with dominance, you need to watch for several things. Tail position. Tail position for a dominant dog is going to be very up and high over the back, or with a curled tail dog, it's going to be very, very tight curl. The ears are going to be very forward. There's going to be intense, direct eye contact. He's going to be up on his toes and very alert. And you need to watch for when the dogs get together, what we call hooking the head over the shoulders. You'll know what that looks like if you see it. And even mounting or placing a paw on the other dog's back.
Now, if you know that your dog exhibits dominant behavior in greeting, We recommend that your dog wear a head halter, as this device gives you control over his head, and it just makes him a lot easier to control that dominance tendency. Now, if you notice these dominant behaviors in a dog that you are considering allowing your dog to greet, we suggest that you consider that decision again and maybe skip it.
All right, and this is a great place to teach step number 3, which is make sure your dog understands the word switch. Switch is where, when you're walking your dog on your left side, you would be able to run that leash behind your back and move your dog to your right side as you say switch. And the best way to practice it is just as you're walking, just pass the leash behind your back, move your dog to the other side and then switch them back to the left, and then switch them back to the right. And what this is going to allow you to do is if you're walking in the park and you have your dog on your left side and somebody's walking towards you and they have their dog on their left side, then when you get close, those dogs are going to come nose to nose. Now, sometimes that's okay, sometimes it's not. I would much rather be able to read the dog's behavior, read my dog's behavior, and be able to switch my dog to the other side so I can pass dog, person, dog, instead of my dog finding out that I should have switched him a long time ago.
All right, step 4 ties into this theme. Teach your dog settle down. Settle down means please lie quietly at my feet. You use settle down if your dog is exhibiting dominant behaviors. First, walk your dog away from the other dog. This forces him to lose the encounter. Then place him in the settle down position. This reminds him that you are the big dog here in this situation, not him.
Now also remember that you need to have taught settle down and switch before you actually need these concepts. Don't just go out there in the park and try to teach them as you're going. Just make a little time to teach them what you're looking for before you actually get out there.
Yeah, it's kind of like an insurance policy. You can't go out and get insurance when you need it if you didn't have it. So you got to go ahead and train your dog, and then all this stuff becomes easy. All right, our third caveat is to know the stress signs. I know we have discussed this in section 2 and in a couple of other podcasts. It's just a reminder because knowing your stress signs can just prevent so many problems. So remember, it's involuntary paw lift, heavy panting when they weren't panting a second ago, yawning, shaking off, like going, just kind of shaking all over like they just got out of the bathtub. All right, food refusal, and if you miss all those signs, they're going to go into avoidance or advancement. So it's so much better to notice the early stress warning signs and do something to diffuse that stress, even if it means walking your dog away.
Now, I think, too, if they notice these signs in either dog, then we recommend that they skip our next step, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, and that next step is to invite your dog to go visit. Now, only invite your dog to go visit if there's no dominance behavior, there's no stress signs, he is under control, and that you've already asked the owner if it's okay.
Now, this is a great place for our next caveat. Sniffing is part of normal dog greetings. Beware of dogs that do not sniff each other. I say that these dogs have gross social skills, and that just means they don't ask questions. They just plow into the other dog and then say, "Oh, did I offend you?" Now, this dog needs to go back to step 1 for socialization. This kind of running into another dog and not asking questions first, this can lead to defensive behavior in the dog that was bowled over. Now, dogs on leash tend to quarrel more than dogs off leash, and that's because the leash itself inhibits body posture expression and the sniffing ritual. But that doesn't mean that we want you to take your dog's leash off every time he meets another dog. We just want you to be aware that the leash can certainly interfere with what dogs are saying to each other.
Also, keep in mind that not all dogs welcome social interaction with other dogs. Dogs will defend themselves when they feel threatened. We don't get to define the threat, the other dog does. A dog may feel threatened by your dog even if the dog is being very friendly and showing good social skills.
All right, this brings us to our 5th caveat. Beware of the freeze in a dog. Now, this freeze is subtle and often quick. Now, just picture this. The dog is panting, and he suddenly closes his mouth and gives the other dog a hard stare. Now, if the offending dog doesn't turn his head and exhibit some submission here, boy, that freeze can turn into a strike by the dog that did the freeze. It might be a growl, a muzzle punch, or a full-fledged attack. It is our job to watch for and recognize a freeze and remove our dog quickly. Now, this can be a little tough to try to describe on a podcast because I know that you're not seeing in your mind what I'm seeing. So don't confuse it with play behaviors. A play bow is a great thing to see a dog do, and that's where they'll dip down on their front end with their rear end up in the air with their tail wagging, and they might freeze right there, but it's totally different. And if you've ever seen a dog exhibit this behavior, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. They become very tense and very still, and it's almost like you think you're looking at a snake that's coiled ready to strike. It's rare that it happens, but it's really, really good if you start watching dog interactions so that you just start paying attention to, is that dog relaxed or is that dog tense? Are his ears forward or his ears back? Is his tail up? Is his tail half-mast? Is his tail between his legs? Because dogs will let you know what they're thinking. You just have to learn how to watch them.
Remember that dogs rarely bite or fight out of the blue. The better you become at reading body language, excitement, and stress, the safer you and your dog will be during the interaction with other dogs.
Right, step 6 is to respect your dog's choice. You can't successfully force a dog to be social. If your dog does not want to visit the other dog, then just keep walking. And go back to step 1 and socialize your dog so that he wants to have fun with other people and dogs. Of course, respect the other dog in the situation's choice as well. If you read his body language and know he does not want to visit your dog despite his owner's suggestions, just politely decline the visit and keep walking.
Alright, and this brings us to our 6th caveat, which is to use caution with big and small dog interactions. Just remember that you don't get a second chance if you read this situation wrong. More than one small dog has been injured because the people involved thought that everything would go just fine.
You know, I've actually had clients get quite angry with me, like in a boarding situation, because I don't like the idea of, say, putting the pug and the Rottweiler in the same kennel overnight. But to me, it's just so worth it to have a little sense about this, in that 9 times out of 10, it's going to go beautiful. But the size differential is so great that what might be a rah-rah between equal-sized dogs, it ends up in a not-so-good situation. So, it just kind of, if you're the one who owns the small dog, it's kind of your job to read that big dog and really decide, do I get a comfortable feeling about this? Do I think this dog is relaxed and he's going to be fine with my dog? We're just asking you to think about it and keep your dog safe.
It kind of reminds me of the whole difference between my kids, Cooper and Lily. Cooper's so big at 4 and Lily's kind of still small at 2. They play together, but Cooper's just so strong and so out of control sometimes that he doesn't realize what's going on until it's too late. It's kind of the difference between sizes. It's a difference between activity level. It could be the difference between, maybe the big dog doesn't want the little dog to have its toy right now. It just so different between sizes that we're not recommending that you never let big dogs play with small dogs, because it's going to happen. What we need to do is just monitor that situation, make sure that both dogs are handling it fairly and equally, and then they're fine. Just make sure that you use a little bit of caution when it comes to big size differences.
And another thing to point out about small dogs and big dogs is a lot of people that have small dogs do get a little afraid of the big dogs when they approach, and so they pick up the small dog. And one thing you have to keep in mind there is when you pick up your small dog is no longer the small dog, because he's in your arms, he's looking down on that big dog, and you might accidentally give him a kind of a false sense of security, like, ha, my mama's got me, and you can't touch me, and you kind of become a team, and you're looking at that other dog. Have you ever seen a little dog in their owner's arms that looks at every other dog going, kind of sounds like Dino from the Flintstones? That's caused a lot of times by picking up that little dog. So you have to find a balance here between finding some good, safe big dogs for your little dog to interact with, but you got to also keep your little dog safe.
Alright, now our 6 steps today were: make sure you socialize your dog, teach your dog to walk beside you on a loose leash, teach the command switch, teach settle down, teach go visit, and respect the dog's choices.
Alright, and our 6 caveats were: consult us or a qualified trainer in your area for antisocial behavior, know what dominance looks like, know the stress signs, watch for signs of the freeze, sniffing is part of it, and use a little caution with big dog, small dog interactions.
Now just make sure you remember to teach your dog the skills needed before you need to use them. It's kind of like expecting your dog to know the word quiet even though you haven't taught it when they're barking. And also remember that you can take our Basic Respect 101 course online at creativedogtraining.com.
Well, this concludes our 3-part series on keeping greetings safe and pleasant. We hope it's been helpful. As always, we invite you to post your questions and comments at creativedogtraining.com. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.
Well, that's everything for today. Thanks for taking the time to listen, and we'll see you on the message boards.